What happens when an officer, once revered, allows his pain to fester into hatred? This is the tragic story of Officer James Williams, a man who went from being the face of respect and admiration in his community to someone consumed by anger and revenge. James was once the officer everyone trusted, greeted with smiles and waves as he patrolled the streets of Maplewood Heights. But after two heart-wrenching betrayals in the same year, something inside him changed. His heart, once full of warmth, turned cold. The pain of lost love became a weapon, and soon it led to a devastating act of violence. This story is one of heartbreak, transformation, and consequences. Stick with us as we dive into the events that unraveled James Williams's life and ended with a tragic loss. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell, so you never miss out on more powerful stories like this one. Officer James Williams was once the pride of Maplewood Heights, a dedicated cop who served his community with honor and respect. Everyone knew him by name, whether it was the elderly residents who greeted him with a smile, or the children who eagerly ran after his cruiser for a high five or a sticker. James wasn't just a figure in uniform. He was a beloved part of the neighborhood. His presence on the streets brought a sense of safety and trust, and the people of Maplewood Heights admired him for his unwavering dedication. But that all changed after a year of heartbreaks. The first blow came when a relationship he thought was his future ended abruptly. Then, just when he thought he had found love again, a betrayal from someone he trusted broke him in ways he never anticipated. These emotional wounds would forever alter the man everyone once admired, leading him down a dark path that would change everything. James's relationship with Sheila had all the makings of a fairy tale. They had met at a community event, and from the very first moment, James was captivated by her beauty, charm, and warmth. Over the months they spent together, James became more certain that Sheila was the one. He imagined a future with her, marriage, a family, a life built on the love they shared. They made plans, shared dreams, and seemed inseparable. But everything changed one cold evening when Sheila called him to a quiet place, and with a look of sadness in her eyes, she ended it. "It's not you, James. It's me," she said, her words stinging more than he could have imagined. Sheila's sudden breakup left James reeling, his heart shattered by the woman he thought he would spend his life with. He couldn't understand why it ended so abruptly, but he tried to accept it, though the pain lingered. For months, James struggled with the emotional fallout of the breakup, the feeling of rejection gnawing at him. Despite this, he tried to hold his head high. He believed in resilience and that love would find him again. So, he picked up the pieces of his broken heart and moved forward, hoping that someday someone else would fill the void Sheila had left. He didn't know it yet, but that hope would lead him straight into another heartbreak, one that would change him forever. Kesha was everything James needed after the heartbreak with Sheila. Her vibrant personality and infectious energy were like a breath of fresh air, and James was drawn to her from the moment they met. She was full of life, spontaneous, and exciting, everything he had been looking for. As they spent more time together, James quickly fell deeply in love with her. He showered her with affection, gifts, and his undivided attention, imagining a bright future with her by his side. But everything came crashing down one evening when James returned home early from his shift to find Keisha sitting on the couch with another man. The sight hit him like a gut punch. His heart stopped, and the world seemed to blur as he stood frozen in the doorway. Kesha didn't offer an apology or explanation. She simply told him to leave. The betrayal shattered James in a way he couldn't have anticipated. This time, the pain wasn't just about losing someone he loved. It was about the humiliation, the deep feeling of foolishness, and the crushing weight of rejection. It was in that moment that something inside him broke, sparking a shift in his mindset. No longer was he the man who believed in love and trust. Now, he was someone hardened by pain and consumed by anger. James's heartbreak began to fester, transforming his pain into something far darker: resentment. The betrayal by Kesha planted a seed of bitterness, and over time, that bitterness grew into a toxic hatred. He blamed everyone, especially the Black community, for the pain he had endured. His mind, clouded by anger, began to twist reality, and he found himself directing his fury at innocent people who reminded him of everything he had lost. His behavior as a police officer began to change. He started targeting Black drivers during his patrols, pulling them over without reason, often searching their vehicles with no cause, and treating them with growing hostility. James was no longer the officer who once greeted his community with warmth and kindness. He had become someone who used his badge as a weapon to lash out at those he unjustly blamed. Yet even as his actions grew more reckless, James tried to maintain the facade of the professional officer everyone knew him to be. On the outside, he remained calm and composed, always ready for duty. But inside, he was crumbling, lost in a battle between the man he once was and the anger that had taken over his soul. Malik Johnson was just 13 years old, full of dreams and potential. A bright, hopeful boy, he loved basketball and spent his free time practicing his shots. He also dreamed of one day becoming a doctor, determined to make something of his life. On that quiet Wednesday afternoon, as he walked home from school, he had no idea that his life would take a tragic turn. Officer James Williams, patrolling the streets, spotted Malik walking alone. A surge of anger surged within James as he saw the boy, someone who, in his twisted mind, represented everything he had lost. Without reason, James pulled over, his cruiser screeching to a stop beside Malik. The officer approached, and with escalating aggression, demanded that Malik hand over his backpack. Malik, confused and nervous, hesitated, but complied. James violently rifled through the bag, finding nothing of concern. Yet instead of letting Malik go, his anger boiled over. In a fit of rage, James pulled out his gun, pointing it at Malik. "You think you can just walk away from me?" he shouted. Before Malik could even react, the officer fired a single shot. The boy crumpled to the ground, his body lifeless. The sound of the gunshot echoed, and stunned onlookers pulled out their phones, capturing the horrific moment. The footage quickly went viral, spreading across social media and igniting a firestorm of outrage as people demanded justice for Malik. As the video of Malik's shooting spread, Mayor Henry Johnson, a respected leader in Maplewood Heights, was in a meeting when his phone began buzzing relentlessly. Initially, he ignored it, unaware of the tragedy unfolding. But when he finally watched the footage, his heart sank. The boy lying lifeless on the ground was his own grandson, Malik. The devastation hit him like a tidal wave. Grief and disbelief overwhelmed him as he realized the horrific turn of events. Within minutes, he demanded an immediate response, and soon, police cruisers flooded the scene. Officers quickly secured the area, with some rushing to arrest Officer James Williams, who stood frozen, realizing the magnitude of his actions. There was no escape. James was cuffed and taken into custody without resistance, as the weight of his crime set in. As news of the shooting spread, outrage erupted both locally and across the nation. Protesters gathered in the streets, demanding justice for Malik and accountability for Officer Williams. The footage ignited a public outcry that could not be ignored, fueling the fire for a swift investigation and trial, as the community mourned the senseless loss of a bright young life. The courtroom was packed with people, all seeking justice for Malik. The air was thick with emotion as family, friends, and community members filled every seat, their eyes fixed on the trial unfolding before them. Mayor Henry Johnson, devastated by the loss of his grandson, sat at the front, a somber presence as he faced the man who had taken his beloved Malik's life. The evidence was overwhelming. Video footage, eyewitnesses, and the details of the tragic event all pointed to Officer James Williams's guilt. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict: guilty of murder. The weight of the decision was heavy, and as James sat in his chair, his head hung low, he knew that his life was forever destroyed. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, bringing a swift end to his career and the life he once knew. James would spend the rest of his days behind bars, paying for the hatred and violence that had consumed him. Meanwhile, the community of Maplewood Heights mourned the loss of Malik, a bright young boy with dreams of becoming a doctor. His death left a hole in the heart of the neighborhood, a reminder of the precious life stolen too soon. While justice had been served, the pain of losing Malik would echo through the community for years to come. This tragic story serves as a painful reminder of how deeply hate and anger can corrode a person's soul, leading them to make irreversible decisions. Officer James Williams, once a respected figure in his community, allowed his heartbreak and resentment to fester until it consumed him entirely. The consequences of his actions were devastating, taking the life of a promising young boy, Malik Johnson, and destroying both their futures. James lost his career, his freedom, and his humanity, while Malik's family and the entire community were left with a profound and irreplaceable loss. This tragedy highlights the destructive power of hate, not just on the individual, but on everyone around them. It's a lesson we all must reflect on: how important it is to choose understanding, compassion, and empathy over judgment and anger. We want to hear your thoughts on this heartbreaking story. Share them in the comments below. Like the video if you found it impactful. And don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Thank you for watching. And remember, always seek understanding over judgment.